Okay, so we are here today to celebrate 20 years of Pointe Church here in this facility on this property. Tell us, how are you feeling?
I'm excited about just to be part of something like this. You know, as a church and even as a pastor all these years, I've been here longer than I've been anywhere in ministry. So to be part of a 20-year celebration, and that's just on this property. When you think about the church being an 80-year legacy of church, that's amazing to be part of. Yeah, this church started way back in 1937, and it started in the middle of Kansas City. And as the church continued, it grew quickly, and as it grew, it moved from building to building. At one time, it was on the Paseo, and it was named Paseo Assembly of God. And it was at that time that one of our members' grandfathers was pastor. So a person who was pastor of this church, his granddaughter still goes here. It's just an amazing legacy. And as the church grew, it continued to grow. Then it was moved to Raytown, and it was in Raytown 24 years before they felt like God moving them. They felt like growth was coming. They felt like God had given them a prophetic word to be here on this hill. So they came here 20 years ago.
So Pastor, thank you so much for sitting down with us today, and thank you for the decades of faithful leadership here at the church. Can you take us back to what the Lord was doing in your heart as He prompted you to move the congregation to this location here and become Pointe Church?
I was at a wedding I was performing, which was taking place in Powell Garden, and the family was gathering at this Holiday Inn Express that's just up the street. And it was at like 10:30 at night after the rehearsal and all of the stuff. And we'd gathered back at the hotel, and I was stepped out of the hotel to get the car to bring around and pick up Eunice at the door. And as I stepped out the door, the Lord spoke to me about moving the congregation out here. I just assumed that it would be right there because there's a lot of empty land just north of the Holiday Inn. And the fact was that when we checked into it, it was all already taken and had been approved by the city for development. And so we just kind of waited because there was no pressure. We did call Baptist Temple because they were developing the land around us for a sports park for part of their outreach. they said, oh yes, we want it, but they couldn't buy it because they were buying a bunch of houses around us. And then it was like a couple of summers later that I got a call from Baptist Temple and they wanted that property. And it was like, oh my goodness. Because I knew we were going to move. I didn't know when. The Lord did not tell me that. And so, boy, we got in gear and had found in the meantime the guy that used to be the property manager for Circle C Ranch, which is a youth camp over in Kansas, found this piece of property where we are today, and it was for sale. So we had to get around and get a concept of what we wanted. This piece of property looked awful to me, but we had become convinced that this is where the Lord wanted us. And so I kept saying, well, it's a good location because it's so accessible. But after they started pushing dirt around, we got the concept and squeezed and squeezed and squeezed the property down to where we thought we might be able to afford it. Not property, but the building. And got it squeezed down, and they started pushing dirt around, and it was like, oh, that's a nice building site, because it looks like it slopes right up from the street to the crest of the mountain. So we got in here in May of '03, and that's the story.
We came to the church just a little over 12 years ago, and originally the idea was we were coming to be the executive pastors to learn from a legend, from Pastor Newby, and it wasn't. When I first came, I knew Crown Point, I thought, but that's kind of the thing that we get this association in our mind that a church is the building or the location, and it's not. It's the people. And once you meet the people here, and I found out who Crown Point was, we fell in love with this place. I love how this church reaches out to the community in so many ways. Some of the things that God has done, for instance, even through a preschool, where we did that as an outreach, knowing that this community is a little different than maybe some that, might need a feeding program or things that churches typically do. How can we minister to them? So we've seen families come into the church because their kids started in our preschool. The kids had such a great experience. The parents, we started to get to know them. They started to attend events, and now they're part of the church on a regular basis and bringing people to church. To me, it's just cool to see how that plays together, and one leads to the other, leads to the other, leads to the other, addition to the other. I mean, it's just fun that, the Fall Festival with so many people here, and every time we've done something for Easter, whether it's a glow hunt or one of the other events where people are here in this building, and you get to see, it's kind of funny, sometimes we'll see people who we see them year after year at these events, and then we see them come on a Sunday. As pastor, you become part of their families too, and you see weddings happen, and you see children dedicated, and then the ultimate is baptisms. And over the years, as we saw more and more people baptized, and then these last couple years, God is doing something that's really cool, and I would love to see that be a legacy of this church. Another thing I love that I see here is this church has been referred to as a healing place for a long time, and we see that, repeatedly. And we're all in a process of that, from whatever baggage we've brought from our childhood or family of origin, or maybe a church hurt situation we've been in. But this place is a place where people come and they can be healed and whole. This church is an amazing place. It's a place with genuine, real, kind people. I think every church wants to be known as a friendly church, but I'm told by visiting missionaries, by people who visit a lot of churches, because of their ministry or their job, that this is a genuinely friendly place, and what we have here is unique. Even the fact that we have a men's group that meets regularly and does events, and You know, the women are involved, they have events. It's just, there's so many things going on for people. It's a place where everybody can have a place. It's a place where there's this unique diversity of age. I've never seen anything like it, where we have multiple people in their 90s, and we have young people and young couples who have little babies, and then we have youth and young adults, and they're all participating, all involved. It's an amazing thing. You just don't see that very often. You know, if I think about an anniversary in 20 years from now, what would people say about Crown Point Church? How would they see it different? What I would love to see is they would say that this is a place that has impacted their community in a very unique way, a place that where people comfortably and casually and regularly share their faith. That if you are in conversation with someone from Crown Point Church, they effortlessly tell you what they believe and invite you on that journey to know Jesus. Hey, if you're watching this and you have not been to Crown Point Church, I want to invite you to come and experience it yourself. And as you walk in, you're going to be greeted by people who genuinely are glad that you are here. I want to encourage you to come and experience that for yourself.